Hey guys, won't be there in person for the intro, but we'll be there definitely after and hope to see whatever percentage of the movie I can. But I had been looking forward to seeing River's Edge again for so many years. The opportunity to see it on 35 millimeter with an audience. I can't explain what just a revelation this film was in '87, when it came out in the '80s, the John Hughes, teen movie. This was a teen movie to, I don't know. I think it complements so well. When I get asked like what are my favorite teen movies, I throw in pretty quickly. I call them the Tim Hunter Edge movies, and with that I'm talking about Over the Edge, which misses this series by a year. I talked about it last year because it came out in 1979. But Over the Edge, which he wrote, is one of the great teen rebellion movies of all time. And this film, which he directed from a script by Neil Jimenez, River's Edge, it's whatever, 8 years later, but it's still one of the great teen movies. And it's not as rebellious as Over the Edge, which has a lot of joy to it in its sheer rebellion. This is a different kind of teen movie. It's more depressed. It feels more end of the worldy. Has none of the optimism that, to me, Over the Edge has, if you can call it optimism, firebombing the school and getting sent off to reform school. But there's something great about that. Even the drugs and alcohol in this movie aren't of the fun sort. It's a bummer subject, and it's right there from the beginning. Daniel Roebuck plays the kind of extra chromosome teenage guy you grow up with but don't know what they're ever going to be, and they're just kind of in the group. Well, he goes and kills a girl, and it's how they react. Apparently, at the time, I remember there was a lot of talk that this was based on a true story. It really happened. But I've heard there was an incident in California where a guy killed a young lady. Others saw the body and they just didn't report it for a couple days. I think that's the jumping off point, because what's the group psychosis to not report the crime? And you see it play out in this group, and it's a wonderful cast. This film, it's beautifully done, but it's the cast that just carries it. Keanu Reeves is just fantastic. Ione Skye is wonderful. It's her first role. All these are young actors. Crispin Glover is the lightning rod as Lane, the most out there character of all. He's kind of a charismatic leader, but he's a really fucked up guy, and you just don't know where to pin him. Kind of like, Crispin Glover is so great. At this point, he had been in Back to the Future, and he had shown up in a lot of movies, but this was such a just stellar performance, and it was really controversial. I remember talking to people. I mean, my friends, we just love this movie, and I remember I ran into a producer once I was at a film festival at the time, selling coffee at the Hawaii Film Festival. A producer I really respected. I said, well, what about River's Edge? I started talking about River's Edge, and she was like, no, I think Crispin Glover ruined it. I'm like, really? He's so great. And over time, some people think he's too big. I think he's great. I will always be on the Crispin Glover is great in this movie. Some people think he's too big, but I don't want to cloud your judgment. I just think he's perfect for the part he's playing, and it's a perfectly cast movie. Like I said, Daniel Roebuck as the what's his name, Samson, the psychopath who pushes the whole movie. And then of course there's Dennis Hopper as Feck. There's so few adult roles in this, none of them very respectable. He's the least respectable, bragging about he may or may not have killed someone, a woman himself, a long time ago. He's running from the law. He's this edgy guy who gives drugs to kids. He's wonderful. I mean, Hopper really is represented in this '80s series. I've mentioned it before, but this is actually the same year. I mean, think of where Hopper's at right now. He's been a kind of a pariah, but at this point, we're at Hopper's back completely. In this very year, he's in Blue Velvet, Hoosiers, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which he shot here. He shows up in Alex Cox's Straight to Hell. And I think there's another film or something around this time too, that he's kind of giving another great, so much so that it's like, oh, Hopper's become like a type, So he's great. And also I want to mention that there's a great kid performance. The young Keanu Reeves' younger brother, he's probably the most troublesome character I find, because he has a younger sister who's very sweet and innocent, but he's got this younger brother who seems about 10 or 12 or something. And he's like a little, you go, okay, there really isn't any hope for the future if this kid's, that's how I felt. So anyway, I can't wait to see this film again. It's very dark, but there's a lot of humor. A lot of these lines, I remember repeating them for years after with friends. You know, someone hands you a beer, you have to go, and it's warm all too, or, you know, and it, you know, it sure, you know, something, you do someone a favor, at least warranted a Michelob. You know, there were a lot of great lines in this movie. I think there's a lot of humor just by the complete, you know, grim setting of it, and it's beautifully shot. The locations are grim. Everything. I think it's set in some Nowheresville, California, upper northern. I just kind of nowhere, you know, depressed River's Edge area. So, and it's just amazing a film like this got made. I mean, no one's going to make a film like this today. And the fact that it got made in the 80s, it shows that it was a very apocalyptic. I don't think this isn't the proper even tone of today. But in the 80s, and I think there's other films like this. I remember another film called The Stone Boy, about a little boy who witnesses a death and doesn't report. There was something like, there was a certain grimness or just fatalistic thinking, I think, came out of, you know, we were still at the height of the Cold War. We had Reagan as president. You felt he had his finger on the button and was kind of out of it. This kind of senile president who kind of wanted to launch bombs, you know, or so he acted. It was kind of an apocalyptic time, and it shows in the music and the films, you know, around the edges of a veneer of an industry that is, you know, making a lot of a very different, trying to be a different kind of culture, but the underpinnings, I think, of this film are very, said a lot about this moment in time. So I'll be curious how it's holding up, but I can very, very much vouch for the performances. Keanu, Ione Skye, they're really wonderful, and just these kind of not bad people, but living in kind of disassociated places and times. So, okay, enjoy the movie. I can't wait to talk about it, see what everybody thinks after. So, all right, have fun. Anybody got any feck weed? Crispin Glover, he's just so great. I don't know. I love him.
So, like, what do you talked in your intro, which we all watched, like, about how, like, you know, some people think that he's over the top, some people think he's just right, and you're like, definitely in the camp of he's just right.
Yeah, I think so.
Anybody like?
I think he's pitched for this movie too. I mean, what's Daniel Roebuck? I don't know. I accept it. I think it's.
Could he have? Would it be possible to be that character and be over the top? Like, could he have? If he went more over the top, would he have actually gone over the top? Because it's so. About as far as you can go, I think.
Yeah, definitely. But the movie is too. I mean, really, I think it goes about as far as you can go with that subject. The little kid is so. I mean, I don't know. I don't think about that. I don't think like, oh, is he too over the top? I just accept him as a real guy, and go, wow, you know, that's like so, that fuck up guy you might have grown up with, like all these, you know, the whole group of them.
Yeah, you believe in him because you accept that
so like
world.
Teenage. That's why I don't know. I respect it so much because I think it just captures, if you can really think, that 16 to 18-year-old mindset where sex and death are so close and it's so romantic and yet intriguing. You don't know anything about the world, but you kind of feel it's all in your face, you know. I think it just captures that so kind of beautifully. It's like, you know, I don't know. The damn atmosphere they're in there, it's like, ooh, chilling.
It's like it's really the time in your life when everybody is insane.
Yeah, I mean, you are definitely technically, you know, all teenagers, right? I mean, they've proven that, right? The brain hasn't, like, the frontal lobe hasn't attached or whatever until like 20 something. Later for guys, I think.
And then and hormones are making like all these like signals go through your brain that you can't cope with.
Oh yeah. I don't know what Hopper's excuse effects is outside of me. Now, I've never been sure. Is it clear? Is he living in some myth, or is he really on the run all these years? Did he really kill? I mean, Any opinions? I don't know.
I think he killed his last doll.
That's who he killed, and he just killed because at the end when he says I lost a friend, is he talking about his doll or Samson or John? The doll, Ellie. Yeah, okay. He doesn't consider.
Yeah, they were
friend,
real
right?
tight homies. Him and Samson and John.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He tries to befriend the young psychopath, but
And what did it say for all of those of us who like watched and loved that during the '80s and like we're like, oh, that looks cool. Like that looks like a cool bunch of friends to actually have in your life.
Well, you saw it when you were
yeah. I was that age. Yeah,
I was already looking back from a distance on it and appreciating it.
I wish I had some cool friends who did cool stuff sometimes.
Yeah, that says a lot right there. That's what I was talking about. That I wish I lived in that town where you can smoke weed right outside the school.
Yeah.
You gotta love that. The poor mom, my favorite line, you were all mistakes anyway. And then the little daughter's like, Mommy. He's like, oh, fuck.
Don't give up, Mom.
And Keanu's so reasonable, too. He's like, hey, things are a little crazy. I'm just going to go. I'm going to take this joint. And everything's going
Like he seems like the grown up. He seems so
he's
reasonable.
the reasonable guy.
What is it like?
How great is he?
We were talking about like that kind of sick humor. Maybe it was like last year. We were talking about that kind of sick humor where we can like find a scene as heartbreaking as that happens like on the stairs with the little girl. Don't give up, Mom, and all that. Like find that so funny for some reason. What's wrong with us?
I know.
There's something about the darkness of it.
Yeah.
It's funny. This series really could have been called the "Oh, you couldn't make that nowadays" series.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much across the board.
But like, are there movies like
Next week's film, however, is a complete change of pace.
Right.
Summer, an Eric Romer film, very French, beautiful movie.
It'll bring back
two
your
young ladies on a kind of an impromptu road trip, I believe. I haven't seen it in a long time, but beautiful movie, very sunny. Right, yeah.
It'll bring back your faith in life a little bit.
A little bit.
But then after that,
It
the week
has its own
after that is
melancholy,
Mishima,
Mishima,
which will crush you again.
Yeah. Paul Schrader is, you think about the 80s, and so much of this series the last 2 years I've been talking about how Hollywood changed and what a crappy time it was to get film, these kind of films made. But Schrader had a great 80s. I look forward to Mishima because that film is just beautiful. That film is quite just such an artistic accomplishment that film could get made at all. But that's 2 weeks from now. So, he basically makes a Japanese film.
Yeah.
But it's great.
Which audiences they were ready and waiting for it, and they were there to buy
absolutely.
their ticket at the door, man.
Yeah, a great writer who, commits seppuku. Yeah, sure.
So a movie
Another
like this,
death obsessed.
a movie like this isn't like a big movie, but it's like a $3 or $4 million movie or something, right? Like it's like,
or at the time, 2-3 million,
something like that. And they got financing for this.
Yeah, you got to hand it to the producers of this. I want to give a shout out to
John Daly.
Mitch Sanford and Sarah Pillsbury. They made several movies in this era and still going today. But they fought the good fight on a lot of these. I think they did 8 Men Out, Desperately Seeking Susan, which could fit in this series. A lot of they grind it out, get things made somehow, some way. But yeah, I think they did it for what back then was super low budget. Couple million.
We think about like the sort of heroic kind of auteur, but there's all kinds of like these sort of producers who are in there gutting it out and fighting.
Yeah, it takes everyone. But it made its impact. It wasn't like a big hit or anything, but I think it did okay, for an indie at that time.
Yeah,
Hemdale was a big company. They had done Platoon.
Yeah.
It was a British company, right? But one of the guys was British. But kind of a short-lived but impactful company, was taking some chances, so.
What was that again? So,
but I don't know what's the pitch to get this film made. Like, it's going to be,
imagine that pitch meeting.
And they weren't stars, Keanu, that's kind of an early film for him. They weren't really any known actors outside of Hopper.
Okay, imagine that movie.
It wasn't like, you don't pitch it. And I didn't mean to, I like John Hughes. His films are realistic and funny, but they're very kind of, the problems of the people in those films are, in the normal spectrum.
Yeah.
And this was, I mean, you don't pitch it as, hey, teen movies, or this will be one of those great teen movies. I don't know how you get it made.
Walk in that room
Yeah.
to do the pitch, and then you say that, okay, and then who's in it? And maybe could a star play this? No. Actually, it wouldn't be good if a star played
Yeah.
that.
You know, they didn't have Anthony Michael Hall as Keanu, or, you know, it didn't, I don't know.
Oh, it's a miracle when a good movie gets made. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
we gotta appreciate it.
I wonder if you have any contributions, questions,
Yeah.
comment, anything from the audience. Somebody's got to have a good thing to say. Right over here, yeah.
Is there anything, say, at the time of the movie industry in '86 versus, say, comparing the movie to like Breaking Away in '79? Had society shifted anyway in between those years, or anything significant in the movie industry?
The movie industry, yeah, certainly. I think Breaking Away from '79, that's a studio film, and you know, yeah, I think they were sort of running scared from subject matter. Breaking Away is kind of a feel-good, but it's very character-based, and that's the kind of film they would continue to make. But you know, it was the era of kind of anti-auteur. You know, there was some execs were quoted as saying, after Heaven's Gate, you know, studios were starting to be run by, you know, kind of corporations, and the Michael Eisners and Don Simpsons of the world were taken over. And they just said, well, we have to just wrestle this back from the creative people, you know.
You could get
Christopher
Breaking
Soverson was quoted as saying, well, then and give it to who? The non-creative people? Like, what are you going to do?
That's kind of what they did, really. Isn't it?
Yeah. So there was a real battle going on in Hollywood at the big level. I think the indie level, it's kind of stays the same, but the bigger budgets were. It was the era. I think the notion of high concept was born with films like Flashdance, and you know, you got to set up these things and deliver in the third act, and it got very formulaic really fast. And yeah, so it was kind of a miracle from then on. You know, anything good got made.
You could go and pitch Breaking Away and get that made today, though. Like, that's a movie that you could still get made.
Yeah,
you couldn't get
lower
this
budget,
made.
not at a studio, but you know, you could probably get it made.
I wonder if we have anybody else in the audience. Yeah, right back here in the middle, kind of.
So this is the first time I got to see the film, and the scene with Keanu in the police station reminded me kind of of James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause, except in that film, the parents come in, rush him, and support him, and he gets frustrated with that angst. But in this scene, Keanu is kind of already isolated and as a man. I was wondering if there was any commentary to the family life of the '80s.
Well, I think that's the big difference between the 50s of Rebel Without a Cause to the 80s. You see kind of the disintegration of a family. There's no family. I mean, in the 50s, those parents were out of it, but at least they cared, you know? I mean, they were trying. They were almost reaching out too much, and it was just seemed, you know, leave me alone kind of thing. But seems like the opposite.
The common thread, of course, is Dennis Hopper. Which
Yeah.
It's interesting to
I
see
know.
him running through
He's
this
in
sort
all
of
these-
cinema of rebellion, like
I
through
know,
all these
all the way.
eras.
Yeah.
Because you
There
have
he
Dennis
was.
Hopper in Rebel Without a Cause, Easy Rider, you know,
know.
River's Edge. It's kind of amazing that he's this
eternal
turtle.
rebel punk. Just, yeah, it stayed with him.
We need to build a statue. We need like a Dennis Hopper statue or something.
I think
like
so. What
someplace.
era do you depict him from? What?
Dynamite Circle.
Oh yes, the Dynamite Circle from '83.
Which you were at, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. You have to
yeah,
have like
what,
the
do you
many
pick
faces
young?
of.
Do you pick him from Easy Rider, maybe? The facial hair? Do you? I don't know.
I love Dennis Hopper.
Multiple statues of Dennis Hopper. One from Rebel, one from Easy Rider, one from, you know, this era, Blue Velvet or something.
The great man. Yes, right here.
So, at the scene where they're trying to get money from that girl, and the dad has a mustache and shaggy hair and a shotgun, they all run off, and he's wearing denim, and they chase the cart on the hill. That happens like beat for beat in Boogie Nights. Not familiar. And all those same ingredients.
Oh, he just has a gun all of a sudden and he's
Well,
shooting.
in Boogie Nights, Alfred Molina's house, he has a mustache, they're wearing denim,
Right.
they chase the cart on the hill. That all happens the same way. So, is that from this, or is that from something prior to this? Do you
I
guys
don't know.
the history of-
Ask PTA, man. Maybe that's an homage, direct homage.
We'll give him a call.
Yeah.
Find out.
Yeah. Could be.
Right back here, yeah.
What does it say, do you think, that they name check Easy Rider in this film? I think that has to be sort of deliberate to make us think about Hopper's character and how sort of degenerated he is from whatever already kind of qualified dream he represented in the Easy Rider. I mean, do you think that's sort of a self-reflexive moment, or?
I mean, yeah, what are they saying there? Because, the tagline for Easy Rider was, two guys went looking for America, couldn't find it anywhere. They were freedom seekers, and this is like, that doesn't, I mean, he's a shut-in. What does that say? If you really think of that, it's pretty depressing. But
There's
Also an ex-biker in this.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
he lost,
He lost
his
his
leg,
leg.
in an accident.
But it was
At
all
least
the
he's
same
still
character.
alive, I mean, he doesn't make it out of Easy Rider alive, so. I think
We don't
he's-
think,
yeah.
but I think this film postulates, what if he did?
I know. If he really didn't die on that highway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right in the back here, yeah.
So, in the beginning, you said something about someone saying that Crispin Glover was overacting or something like that. And to me, this was like a classic Crispin Glover film. I mean, if you've seen Ruben and Ed, have you seen Ruben and Ed?
I haven't. No.
You need to see that movie.
Okay.
I mean, like, seriously. But it was classic Crispin Glover. He's
Yeah.
great. I thought it was wonderful. I thought this is, for me, cemented. Yeah.
He's like that in real life, too, by the way.
Yeah.
He really is. He's exactly like that.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But, I'm actually kind of surprised you haven't seen Ruben and Ed.
We'll get you up to speed on these movies, Rick, all right?
Catch up on that. But, Crispin Glover, well, he's made some movies too. No, what an interesting artist.
Yeah, he's out of his mind. I like him. So, like,
It's good. Not enough crazy people,
like when an actor plays really, because you've worked with like McConaughey can play pretty big, and then like Jack Black can play real big. Like, do you ever like, and you obviously you trust them with their conception of that character. Do you ever have to go and say, hey, let's try it a different way too?
Yeah. You're always kind of, an actor has to explore the kind of the outer reaches of their character and what fits, but it's really a director's thing, the tone. If that's just too big, they might not know it because they don't know what other people are doing or the tone you're going for. So yeah, you're always kind of dialing it in.
When you do see
I'm
somebody
always
plays
kind of like bringing it back to something real, but really it depends on the performance and the story,
it's kind of the director's responsibility to make sure the actor doesn't make a fool of himself or
Yeah,
go too
they
big.
gotta trust you
Yeah.
because they don't know they can't, they're not in control of that.
Yeah, if you were filming like an over the shoulder and like one person's screaming and the other person's not, then it's kind of weird.
Yeah, and you have to, a lot of actors get pushed the other direction. If you work for Kubrick, he's like, I want it big. I was talking to Vince D'Onofrio in Full Metal Jacket. He says, yeah, I want to play him. He's like, no, I want it. His direction is, I want it big. Lon Chaney big. That's what he's like, okay. Yeah, because he and, Lynch obviously wanted, Coen Brothers, sometimes it works. George C. Scott complained about Kubrick because he says, yeah, he uses the takes that you feel like he pushed you farther and you're the least, as an actor, you weren't happy with it. And he uses the ones that you're the most kind of like creature-like, he's talking about in Strangelove. But memorable, always a great memorable performance, but it's not based on realism. It's based on, what works for what he's trying to say. So
Yeah, imagine like The Shining. Like
every
must have
film's
just
different,
been, must have just been pushing that and pushing that in The Shining.
Yeah, I mean that was the complaint at the time. A lot of people thought, oh, Nicholson's just a little too over the top. But I think history's proven that performance
Yeah.
not so over the top. What seems over the top at the moment, you're just not fully buying into their fictional reality they've created for you to tell this incredible story. So.
And prevailing opinion changes over the years. Like it's probably really surprising to a lot of people that like when The Shining came out, people were like, a misfire, a bad performance, it doesn't
always.
work. Yeah, but
What's he
nobody
doing
thinks that now.
What's he doing in the genre at all?
Right.
He's above this, working at this level.
Yeah, so the prevailing winds, the prevailing critical winds sort of change, and like actually, you know, what makes a lot of movies become more appreciated or appreciated in different ways is like an environment like this. Like you might not realize this, but like this, like a series like this, and you guys attending this series, like this is shockwaves that resound through the world. Actually, like just little screening series like this, like. Because it was, you know, years ago, some little screening series in Paris where people watched Edgar Ulmer movies, and then that became big. And so what we're doing here is important. What you guys are doing here is important, I'm saying.
Yeah, watching Hitchcock films that weren't taken serious.
Yeah.
And they're going, hey, wait, no, really.
Yeah, this is where it's all happening, you guys.
Always
you guys
is.
are in the right place.
Always is.
I wonder if we have any other contributions. Right over here, yeah.
I was just a little confused. Like at the beginning, we talked about Ellie, but when the kids break in, the Nunchuck kid picks up a picture, and it's a woman that looks just like Ellie. So I was just kind of confused. Like, did anyone else see that, or like, did I not see it?
Other people, I didn't notice it.
So is that
Probably the girlfriend who killed.
the one he killed? So how many think he actually killed a person? Okay, how many think he shot it? Of course, if it was 20 years before, they probably didn't even have blow-up dolls. That's a more recent. I think that was recent now. I think they've gotten more sophisticated too.
The first blow-up doll was invented by Flint Industries in 1968. Late 68, November 68.
Lars knows a lot about this.
I think I saw a hand in the back first, right back here, yeah.
I was just noticing, or rewatching it, and never noticed as a young person when I saw it the first time that Dennis Hopper really kind of seemed like he became even more lucid in that conversation with Samson at the river, and you guys mentioned homage. It really reminded me of Mice and Men. The kind of the beats of the conversation and the beats of Mice and Men.
Yeah, except Lenny in this case knows he's cooked.
Yeah.
So
Lon Chaney Jr. big.
he does himself. Daniel Roebuck is very good. That's a hard part to play.
Yeah.
It really is.
And he gets big scenes, like big
He's
scenes with
a
Hopper
good
and
actor.
everything.
He's had a long career. He's done a lot of stuff.
He's a director now too, I think.
Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff. You're kind of proud of guys like that. I mean, he's young here, but just have a long career.
Yeah, check out Dudes.
And Dudes, he plays Biscuit, right? the punk rock. And the little kid, Tim, that scary guy, he's in Near Dark, like the next year, right? The Catherine Bigelow.
Same kid,
Do you
right?
remember?
Yeah.
He's a little vampire kid, right?
Yeah.
Haven't seen that in a while, but
Movie's great.
he's
Actually,
good.
that's
That
time.
face, his little demeanor is so like intense.
Actually, for next year's Jules in the Wasteland, that'll be in the right time period. It's Near Dark, so
a little Near Dark.
I know we can get a good pin of it.
87, 8, and 9. That'll be fun.
That is if we continue to do this. Yeah.
Oh, we will.
I hope we will. Yeah. Did you hear that?
Absolutely. Oh, no question. Are you kidding? And then we'll start again. We'll just go back.
Because we're not going to go to the 90s.
No,
Hell no.
I stop here, I think. I get off here. We'll go back to another decade.
All the way in the back there.
Hey, I want to comment, Rick, when you talked about Over the Edge in the beginning. I didn't realize a whole lot of people had seen that movie, loved Matt Dillon's. I think it was his first movie.
Yeah, a lot of those people's first movie.
As a
Vincent
personal
Spengler.
favor, I would love to see your remake of that movie, actually. The surrender scene where you lock your parents in the school and do that, I'd like to see how you do it.
You couldn't do it any better, I always say that's the perfect ending for a teen movie. And that's not the exact ending, but it's kind of like, I'm a big fan of If, 6 sheet out here in the lobby, where they just kind of, the students are, take over the school and have weapons and are attacking that's kind of the classic ending. Lock them in and firebomb the school. It's kind of the perfect teenage ending.
Well,
The rebellion back. But Over the Edge is fantastic.
Yeah, on the matter of, like, if anybody saw this movie and was just like, oh, I've got a receptor in my brain for this, then and you haven't seen Over the Edge, then it's the one you've got to go. It's from 79, so it's just before this, but it's written by the guy who directed this movie, and it's so good.
Jonathan Kaplan directs it. It's great. And that's the film, I think it all ties in. You know, that was a big Kurt Cobain loved that film, and his Smells Like Teen Spirit videos based on kind of Over the Edge. And the setting for this, doesn't it seem very like Northwest
Yeah, definitely.
grunge before it was, you know, I kind of think like Kurt Cobain is in that classroom or
Yeah.
he's in the school somewhere, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, kind of.
So Rick, next week we're going to watch Summer, Le Rayon Vert.
Yeah, we haven't done a lot of, last time we had a lot of European film, a lot of world cinema. This time we really haven't had that many, so.
It's the two, I think.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
so this will be a good French film.
So why should these people come and watch that?
Well, Eric Romer, he had a great 80s. I said Paul Schrader had a great, Romer had a, just, he was old at this point. He was probably in his, was he in his 70s? At least his late 60s, you know. He was just made one great film after the other in the 80s. And this is just one more. You know, shot it on 16 millimeter, crew of 4. It's just kind of a example of what, you know, what you can do. Just perfectly beautiful tone. I love all his films, but that one's one of my favorites.
Well, I think your introduction to L'Argent was the best introduction I've heard you give ever of a movie.
Really?
Yeah, it really was. And so, like, I'm really looking forward to hearing your introduction.
Well, I don't think
for
people
this.
like L'Argent. I think Bresson kind of needs an introduction in a way. You know, Romer probably doesn't. It's just like it's very realistic, and all in that way. I think it's highly accessible. So I don't think it needs that in a certain way. But it's less something to kind of break through if you're unfamiliar.
Well, I think it'll sort of blaze a trail for a lot of people. I think a lot of people watch these movies and then
Romer films kind of change people's lives. I've talked to a lot of filmmakers who, you know, they say, "Oh wow, you know, a film can be that." You know?
So everybody's going to be here for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Two more. Anyway,
Two more.
thanks for being here. What a great print, man.
Yeah, looks
Another.
great. Thanks to American
very
Genre
special.
Film Archive for that print. It's a beautiful print. And thank you, Rick.
Doing good.
And thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.